Welcome back. I'm Caylie Chattin. Now, normally you would be seeing me report from somewhere else on campus, but tonight I am here with a very special guest with Bradley's President Stephen Standifird. We want to welcome you back in the studio. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Great, thrilled to be here.
Awesome. Now I'm just going to ask a couple questions.
Sure.
So, what are some of the responsibilities that you have as president of Bradley University?
Interesting question. So, really kind of overall scope of the university, but really what I spent a lot of time thinking about is the overall strategic direction of the university. I actually had a student ask me once, what do I do? It's a piercing question, right? And the way I often describe it is I support the people that support you. So my job is to really make sure that the organization has the resources it needs to be successful, has the appropriate strategic direction to make sure we're moving in a positive direction, and then to support the vice presidents, kind of what we call the senior leadership team, to make sure they have what they need to be able to effectively serve our students in their roles as students here at Bradley University.
Nice.
Yeah.
Now, what brought you to Bradley?
So it's I get this question periodically, and one of the things that there's a whole line of conversation I could go down here that I'll try to resist, but I'm a first-generation college student. I'm passionate about building institutions that build human potential, but based on my own experiences and the things that I've been able to do as a result of my education. And when I think of institutions that are well positioned to really help people become the fullest version of themselves, I can't think of any place better that does that than Bradley University, and that's really what brought me here.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
And now, what was it like to come to Bradley and start your presidency during a pandemic?
It was different.
For sure.
Wasn't at all how we planned it, obviously. But it's interesting. I've had a number of people ask me along the way a similar question around if I knew what I know now, would I have still done it? And the answer is absolutely. I accepted and was comfortable with the responsibility of really helping the organization navigate through that crisis. But the other thing I'll mention is I'm a strong advocate that if you really want to understand organizations and understand people, watch them operate in a crisis.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had an opportunity to see us operate under the most challenging of situations and watched us do so with grace and continue to move forward in positive ways. So it's obviously been very challenging in many ways, but it's also been very encouraging in many ways, and it makes me very optimistic about the future.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure. So having to make some difficult decisions due to the pandemic, how was that for you? How did you decide on the choices that you made?
Oh, it's a great question. First of all, it was unique. One of my friends, an individual named Mary Marcy, she was the president of Dominican University in California for 12 years. And I asked her, I said, Mary, tell me this is not normal, right? She said, no, it's nothing like what I've ever experienced. And the way she described it is, it was a year where we had to make a lot of decisions that she described them as 49% decisions. It was so difficult to figure out what was the right decision. There's two guiding principles that really helped us navigate through this. And the first one is we followed the science. To the extent that we could. The science was evolving, so we continued to adjust based on following the science. But when questions came up, we would often go back to follow the science. And then one of the things, our Vice President of Student Affairs, Nathan Thomas, really led a lot of the charge on this, and I can't thank him enough for that. And Nathan and I would often talk about what we will ultimately be judged on is, did we do an effective job of keeping people safe and healthy? And so that was also one of the, follow the science, focus on safety and health. Mm-hmm. And that really helped us figure out how to make some of those more difficult decisions.
Mm-hmm. Now, what are 5 things you would say that students should know about you, or some interesting facts?
Okay. So I'm not sure I'm that interesting, by the way, but I'll give out a few things. First of all, I am a first-generation college student. Mm-hmm. So I know we have a number of students that would fall into that category as well. And so when folks struggle or think through about how challenging, I get it, right? And know that the world is an opportunity set for you. That's one of the things that I think is, as a background. Folks may or may not know that I actually have an engineering and a business background. And so when you start thinking about the various things we do at the university, there are various areas that I get excited about. I was a singer at one point. I was in the Purdue Varsity Glee Club
as an
undergraduate, and that was a great experience. And I was also student body president my last year.
Oh,
so
wow.
I was both being in the Glee Club and being student body president really helped me understand the power of the co-curricular activities, that the education of a student goes way beyond just what happens in the classroom. Obviously, that's critical. but it's the totality of the experience that really matters. And because of that, I'm constantly encouraging students, get involved, find something you're excited about, and there will be deep learnings associated with that.
100% agree, yes.
Yeah.
Now, what is your favorite thing that you would say about Bradley? I know it's a difficult question.
Yeah.
You could multiple favorite things, I'm sure.
It's interesting. I have a multitude that I do, and it depends on the audience I'm talking about. The one thing that I constantly finding myself saying to a lot of groups is it's just an amazing place of highly dedicated people. And that goes back a little bit to that, what did you discover during the pandemic? And it was such a complicated situation. And watching my colleagues over and over and over again step forward themselves in the most complicated of situations. And their willingness to adapt and adjust and continue to move forward has been remarkable and inspiring. And it speaks volumes of the people here. So I share that with some regularity about my optimism about the place comes from watching my colleagues operate in the most difficult of situations and do so with grace.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. We got about a minute left here.
Yeah.
What would you say are some of the future goals or plans for the university?
Yeah, so we went through a big strategic planning process. There's a number of things coming out of that. One of the things I'm most excited about is last week we announced the appointment of a new Vice President of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, Dr. Warren Anderson he's coming to us from the Wisconsin system. One of the things I get really excited about is we're going to work very hard to make this one of the most inclusive campuses in the nation and to be a role model in doing so. And that's one of the biggest plans. And that comes directly from our strategic plan, which if we had more time, I'd tell you about in detail.
Well, thank you so much. Unfortunately, that is all the time that we have today, but thank you so much again for joining us. I appreciate it.